All right, on the button.
Yep.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the April 18th meeting of the Hidden Valley Board of Directors. I can't tell remotely who's in attendance other than the members of the board, but if you're out there, we're really glad that you're able to join us today. We're going to start with members' time. John, has anybody submitted any questions?
The only question, Pat, was the one I had forwarded was relational to the status of the pools. And then we had a comment that was Jefferson Township. A gal was concerned about the condition of the center line paint and the fog line. So in that case, I advised the resident that Jefferson Township is intending to pave and paint, but until the PennDOT departments are allowed to work again, there's really nothing that can be done. And I'm just checking email. That was the only two commentaries or questions.
And we aren't able right now to accept questions during the meeting.
We could. It's up to the board. If a resident waves their hand, we can unmute them. So if we wanted to and the board wishes, we can ask if anyone wants to comment, and then we can unmute that particular person.
Well, why don't we do that at this time?
To the other screen? Gallery. Yeah, let's go to the gallery screen. There you go. All right, so if anyone would want to ask the board a question, management a question, or comment, can you wave at the camera? All right, we have Michael Duray. Hold on, Michael, we have to unmute you first. Okay, Michael, you're on.
Okay, quick question. Because of the virus situation and non-essential workers cannot perform their tasks, is that going to impact the schedule for painting condos and townhouses?
Oh, that's a great question. Under the current governor's orders, maintenance activities are a non-essential construction. So we do have quite a few projects that fall within that category. That could be deck repairs that are non-life-threatening, painting and roofing. And we're monitoring the governor's orders as they seem to change daily. So as soon as they open up that, we'll send out a notice to the condos and those respective contractors and the townhomes. You're welcome.
Oh, hold on, guys.
Anyone else?
Oh, hold on a second. No, I'm right here.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
We need to follow our protocols. We need to have a name and we need to have an address of the homeowner.
Oh, that was Michael Duray.
Yep.
Michael, what's your address?
1508 Taylor Way.
1508 Taylor Way.
I got him.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Thanks, Ted.
To further respond to that, as I understood Michael's question, is he asking if the time period set would be extended?
Yes.
Because of this. It seems
Yes,
to me that there's concern that they're going to come up against a deadline. And I think that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Right.
to that point, Pat, the ACC is being as accommodative as is management, because there's really nothing that can be done given the governor's order.
Okay. Michael, did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, then let's get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 9:05. Roll call, Dave.
Gotcha. Doug Henley,
Here.
John Eddy,
Here.
Pat McGrail,
Here.
Bob Kohler,
Here.
John Newport,
Here.
Bill Leisure,
Here.
and Dave Fiola. All are present, quorum established.
Okay, thanks, Dave. We're going to, so we've established the quorum of the board. Can I have a motion to set the agenda?
Moved. So moved. John N.
Second?
I'll second, Pat.
Bob?
Who got the second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
point real quick. Did you want to add that 12.4 item before we approve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So under other reports, let's add, I suggest amending the agenda as prepared to add 12.4, pool opening remarks. So Pat, I would suggest, why don't we ask for another motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
You know what, Bob cut out for me. So 12.4 is going to be a report on the pool opening.
Right. I called it pool opening remarks.
Okay.
And I have John as made the motion, and I have Doug Henley as second.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Moving on, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February 22nd, 2020 board meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Pat, who was the second on the minutes?
Bob.
Bob, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the to acknowledge the electronic vote on the Gardner Road lot purchase, and I did want to make a couple of comments about that. As everyone is aware, our salt dome is currently located on property along Gardner Road that we lease from Seven Springs from year to year. Seven Springs has never committed to a long-term lease, nor have they been open necessarily to discussions with regard to our purchase of that lot. And in order to provide consistency to our community with regard to salt storage and related maintenance storage, we were in search of finding an alternative location that we could control. Doug had identified a property along Gardner Road. It moved very quickly. We were able to negotiate the purchase of that lot for $28,000. And in fact, we closed on it by the end of March. The lot is 1.5 acres, and I'm sure there will be a lot that we report on that with regard to its development down the road. Doug, do you have anything to add to that?
Our current salt dome, you can see when you drive down Gardner Road towards Somerset, it's on the east side of Gardner Road. It's damaged. It's in need of repair. So we need a solution, permanent solution for the salt bin. Both Hidden Valley Foundation and the Hidden Valley Resort both use salt bin by agreement. So there's storage of materials in there that serve both business interests. The salt bin was originally a 50-50 purchase by the foundation and the resort. However, now the financial burden of maintaining that building is on the foundation. So there's not really a long-term solution on that particular piece of property for a permanent salt bin. So we need to look for an alternative that will meet our foundation requirements. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug, and thanks for your work on that. I also want to note that we did sign a new lease it was effective April 18th, or I guess that's today, effective April 18th for the next 12 months. And so I would anticipate, fingers crossed, that by April of 2021, we will terminate that lease permanently. But we'll see how things go. Okay, so item 6.1, I need a motion to acknowledge the electronic vote on the Gardner Road lot purchase that did approve that purchase unanimously.
John Eddie,
Bob Kohler, I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. I need a motion, and obviously this is in conjunction with item 6.1, a motion to acknowledge the electronic vote on the Gardner Road lot closing costs.
John Eddie. I second.
Is that Bill?
Yep.
It's Bill.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Item 6.3 is a motion to acknowledge the electronic vote on the electricity provider. Bob Kohler, can you speak to this?
Sure, Pat, I can do that. So the foundation entered into a long-term contract several years ago to lock in the price of our utility for all of the foundation's facilities, for all of our street lamps, etc. So we locked in with an organization called Constellation Energy, and we used a broker to help us do that. The broker reached out to me in early January and indicated that we had an opportunity to early adopt our electricity contract. The current contract expires at the end of 2020. The broker said that due to falling prices, that this might be a good time for us to lock in. So proposal was brought forth to us. It will lower our electricity costs around the community about 1 cent per kilowatt hour. And that may not seem like a lot, but extrapolated over the 3-year period, it'll save us about $1,500. So it seemed like a good financial move for us. We're not subject to any market fluctuations in the cost of electricity, so we're locked in now for the next 3 years. So overall savings about $1,500.
Well, thanks, Bob and John. I know you two worked on this, and you know, $1,500 over 3 years doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot of money,
Right.
but when you add it to other savings, it does add up.
Absolutely.
But it relates only to existing connections.
That is correct, John.
If we add anything
Right.
in addition, then it would be at whatever rate is applicable at that point.
That's correct, yeah. And we have a couple of meters in the community that had been missed. I want to say there are 2 or 3, and John Sabo is working with our broker there to get those added. It'll be at a slightly different contract rate, but then we will have all of our foundation meters on a contract. So.
Okay, very good. May I then have a motion to ratify or acknowledge the electronic vote on the electricity provider contract?
I'll move. John N.
Okay.
I'll second.
Bob for our second today. Any questions on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved. Thanks. Okay, we're going to move on to the treasurer's report. Bob?
Okay. Well, thank you, Pat. So good morning, everyone. Kind of interesting giving a treasurer's report via Zoom, so we'll see how this works out here. We do have the traditional performance dashboards that'll be included in the homeowners packet that I understand we're going to post on the website, so you'll be able to go back and look at that. So today I'm just going to touch on some key points, and I'll also touch on, of course, Finance Committee and Audit Committee, as I always do. So just kind of looking at the overall treasurer's performance dashboard, the things that I think are of most importance to all of us. Budget year to date through the end of February, we're showing a small surplus of about $48,000 versus a budget at this time of year. We're usually running a small deficit. We had projected a budget of about $30,000 deficit at this time. So the reason why we're showing that small surplus is primarily due to lower snow removal costs, where we were at about $70,000 under budget at the end of February, and Chris from the office staff and I updated that just yesterday. We're showing about 125,000 under budget for snow removal. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that was due to lower snowfall this year than last year. According to Hidden Valley's resident meteorologist, John Cups, we show about 77 inches of snow this year versus 88 inches last year. And the number of snow days is down about 8 days this year versus last year. So that helps us, contributes to the financial bottom line. We continue to make our reserve funding deposits though, and I'll touch on the reserve fund here in a moment. So overall, from a financial perspective, we're having a good year. I anticipate we'll show a small surplus for the rest of the year. We've got some additional grounds maintenance expenses and some legal costs that are higher, but the savings on the snow removal, of course, is helping us with that. So overall, our accounts receivable, the amounts owed to us by our homeowners, we show about $90,000 total receivables outstanding, which is very good. That's about 3% of our total budgeted revenue. So for HOAs, that's a great number. Last year at this time, it was about 150,000. So we have worked on that very diligently. And of that amount, 5 accounts make up about 55% of it. So I think we've done a good job on monitoring our outstanding receivables. Let me talk about investments for just a minute, and I'll try to put together a couple of facts for you here. Remember that our investments are our replacement fund. So when we go to do repairs on the buildings, or we do road paving, or repair work to the salt domes, working on the walking paths, etc., that all comes from this fund that we've been setting aside. And several years ago, we made the decision to invest that fund. We put together an investment policy. We've hired some investment managers. So you might know, of course, and have certainly heard in the news that the markets have been quite scary here the last few weeks. And you might wonder, well, how have we fared, right? So I've been, of course, watching this very closely because I was concerned about it. So if I compare where our investment fund stands today versus where we were at the end of December, we're down 4.5%. Now, to put that in the broader perspective, the overall market, right, through just yesterday is down 10%. So even though we had a big downturn, it has come back some. Our investments, we've been very conservative, and I think just have really 2 excellent investment managers. So to only be down 4.5%, given all the market tumult that we've been through, I think is very good. We continue to hold a good portfolio. We've got a good mix of where we hold our securities between equities, some corporate bonds, and a significant amount of cash as well in certificates of deposit. So I think we're well diversified, and I think that we will not incur any big losses unless the whole market turns on us significantly, that at least according to our investment managers, they don't foresee that happening. So I think the fund that we've been building up over the years to take care of our property appears to be in good shape. Couple other things to mention, our capital budget. So year to date, we've spent about $320,000 on a $730,000 budget, and that's only 44% of budget. You might wonder, well, wow, we haven't spent much yet, and that's primarily because a big chunk of that budget, $250,000, is for our Southridge Center project. You might recall we need to do some work with the bathrooms and the snack shack, and I know fellow director Bill Leach is going to talk about that a little bit later. So, but we haven't really spent any money there yet, other than some design fees and some engineering fees. So stay tuned for a little bit more of an update on that, but not much spent there, but we will definitely be spending some money in the future there. On the contract side, we have one big contract coming due this year, and that's our management company contract. We are currently utilizing First Service Residential. That contract expires on June 30th, 2020. The board has been working very closely with Executive Director John Sabo on this. We're exploring a number of different alternatives, so we'll be making some kind of decision on that here in the very near future. The couple other stats that are shown on the performance dashboard, the maintenance department continues to do a good job with clearing of work orders, seem to be on target with making sure that at least 90% of those are completed and we don't have a lot of open work orders. And then I always like to just comment on our real estate sales activity, and I get this information every time from Mike Mikulich, one of our local realtors and a resident there at Hidden Valley. So up through the end of February, we had been doing very well with real estate sales. 54 units had been sold year to date versus 55 last year. And then, of course, the coronavirus pandemic hit, and realtors are not even allowed to show homes right now, at least per Mike. So, of course, real estate activity has come to a snail's pace right now. At that time and into early March, there were about 60 units for sale, and that is about 5.6% of the mountain. So we've seen a fair amount of activity the last couple of years in the number of units for sale. And again, those are through the multi-list. There could be some private units for sale, but at least publicly, only 60 units for sale. So a couple other things I wanted to touch on. Finance Committee did meet last on February 21st, and somewhat ironically, that was one of our investment meetings. So we met with our investment managers and went through a very lengthy discussion of our investment holdings. And I think the committee walked away very satisfied with the work of our investment managers. They described to us that they had purchased a number of what they referred to as defensive investments, meaning that these were equities and corporate securities that they thought could withstand, right, any downturn in the market. And you know, how fortuitous was that, especially with what happened. So I think the combination of a very strong and conservative investment policy and two very good investment managers have really positioned us well. Also related to Finance Committee, our next steps will be the budgeting process. So I'll be hunkered down next weekend, hammering out the first draft of the budget, and then scheduling a meeting with the Finance Committee to go over that. And then we'll get that brought before the board so that it can be approved at the May meeting. And lastly, just touch on the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee kind of goes a little inactive right now, so they'll be active again in May, June to appoint our auditors and gear up for the annual audit of our financial statements. So, and Pat, that concludes my treasurer's report.
Well, there was a lot of good news in there, Bob.
Yeah.
So, we thank you for that. When do you next plan to meet with the investment advisors? Do you just do that annually, or
no? Typically quarterly, maybe 3 times a year. So we'll probably, I would say maybe wait till sometime in May. We'll get the budget approved, but I've been monitoring every week our investments. That Friday, that fateful Friday when the market fell 30%, that Sunday, I was on the phone with the chairman of Gayasuda Investments for about an hour. He walked me through our investments, why he thought we were in good shape, and what he thought was going to happen. So I can assure you that both Somerset Trust and Gayasuda are watching our investments very carefully. You might also I'm watching our cash collections as well, just to make sure that we don't have any issues with delinquencies. As you might imagine, obviously some folks might be unemployed, have lost their positions, et cetera. So we're watching our delinquencies very carefully too, and I'm getting weekly reports from First Service on our cash collections. So far, I'm not seeing any dangerous trends or things that I'm concerned about, but obviously I'm going to continue to monitor that weekly.
Okay, great.
I would anticipate, once we have the budget gone over by Finance Committee and others, that we will, as we have in the past, have what would have to be now a virtual meeting to explain everything to the homeowners?
Yeah, John, that's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you for asking. I was thinking maybe that weekend before the board meets to do the budget, we could do a public meeting much like this, and then through Zoom, we can actually record it. So we could actually post it out on the website if anyone would like to hear me drone on for an hour about our budget. So I promise to make it edge of the seat type stuff. So.
Don't make promises you can't.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for Bob? If not, can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Excuse me. Can I ask you a question?
Oh.
This is Dan Martin. If there's 5 accountants that owe 55% of the money, can liens be filed on those property or some way to secure the payments, or who are the 5 that are guilty, so to speak?
Yeah, Dan, that's a good question. Yes, we do have the ability to file liens on those properties. And one of those properties is actually tied up in an estate. So we have to kind of wait to see, go through the process of that estate, being finalized. So our attorneys, we hand over those significant collection matters to a law firm in the Pittsburgh area. So they're working with us on that. So they're monitoring that collection right now. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the question. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll move.
John E.
Oh, John E. Okay, John N. will second.
And John N., how about if you second it?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Okay, John Sabo, the Executive Director's report.
Good morning. I just wanted to touch on a few issues. I want to congratulate the staff and the board for working through some very challenging times with the COVID response. I want to assure the residents that thankfully all essential work is continuing and business is as usual. So I want to congratulate the board and their extraordinary efforts of meeting weekly with me to make sure that the governance decisions are made in a timely fashion. And I want to really thank the team for living through some unusual times, but I'm proud to admit that we are continuing with business as unusual, to borrow Dave Fiola's term. JML, our landscape contractor, has been working on the property, is continuing to work on the property. One little side note, Pat McGrail and I are working on an addendum to that contract to give the foundation some additional control on milestones and expectations for service. And basically the summary of that is a liquidated damage amendment to their contract. So should the behaviors that occurred last year reoccur, we will have actual penalties with some very significant leverage. But to step back from that, our preliminary and follow-up meetings with JML's executive team, I did get a very good sense that they are very upset of what went wrong last year. They're very mindful of what our expectations are, and we do have what I feel to be a very genuine commitment to deliver the services that the board and management expect. So that work does continue. There are some labor issues with JML. About half of their staff remain on the southern part of the border. They are successfully hiring local folks to backfill, so we have not seen any acute or critical labor shortages impacting our service. A couple of closeout items. The renovation of the post office has concluded. That actually concluded last month. The extraordinary cleaning and disinfection of that space continue, as does all of the spaces, and I want to report to the board that the staff will be compliant with the new set of governor's orders that become effective tomorrow, and that's mainly masks and the distancing, so that we are ready to continue our work in compliance with the new orders. And then also a few other housekeeping items. The staff has been installing some some delineators. They're finishing their audit of all of the equipment and inventorying of the equipment at the maintenance building. Also, they will be finalizing some efficiency improvements. Basically, all of the tools, pieces, and parts that we store on site. I worked with Brian to develop a better system so we're not missing things nor ordering things that we don't need, and the staff will have a more functional workspace in our new unusual conditions. And a kind reminder to all of the homeowners, please send in your assessments. We are counting on those funds to deliver the services that you all need. And that is all I have to report, Madam President.
Hey, John, I'm sorry, my Zoom cut out on your last statement. Would you mind repeating that?
Oh, I was being kind and reminding homeowners to send in their assessment payments because we could definitely use the money to deliver the services that everyone expects.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, any questions of John Sabo? John, I have a question, or maybe it's a comment. I think this is as good a place as any to raise the issue with regard to the condition of the recycling and garbage area.
Thank you for bringing that up.
It has looked very sorry. And for those of you, I'm not there every day, but for those of you who are there every day and pass it all of the time, it's definitely a situation that, you know, we continually remind homeowners of the rules of recycling. I think it should go without saying that when you arrive at the recycling bin, when it is full, you can't leave it. Come back again once the recycling has been taken, or, you know, take it to a different recycling location. I just want to say, I don't think it's fair to the people who are there all the time to see the mess that has developed in the last couple of months. Usually that happens primarily over the holidays when, you know, there's a significant influx of homeowners and guests. Now there are a lot of homeowners there because of the closures as a result of COVID-19. But let's not, you know, abuse the privilege of recycling. I don't think the board wants to take drastic action with regard to eliminating our ability to recycle. I certainly do not. But I just want to remind everybody that we really have to look out for each other and make sure that we don't leave that area in total disarray. Okay?
As a comment, just to follow up on that and maybe to help from a communication standpoint, and thanks to Maddie, she has posted on the website's calendar the recycling, scheduled recycling dates. So even before you load up the vehicle, if you want to do a quick check, it's always Thursdays, as I understand. It's every other week is what our contract has set for us. And so those are now very accessible on the website's calendar. So to save the inconvenience of showing up with your recycling and having the bin maybe full or whatever, at least you'll know ahead of time.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave.
And Pat,
Thanks,
if I can add, unfortunately, what we're also seeing is construction debris, a toilet, a bathroom vanity top, and the bigger problem is people putting cardboard boxes in there that are not broken down. And because we pay for volume, if people could be mindful of collapsing those boxes and not putting construction debris in, that could save the association a lot of money. And as you said, it could hopefully prevent the board from having to take the drastic step of perhaps reconsidering this very good service.
Okay. Well, those are some helpful hints. I think we continually post that information on the website, and we will continue to do so. Dave's suggestion is a really good one. Everybody has a calendar as to when recycling occurs, so please just take a few minutes and check it before you drop off. Okay, moving on to the Township Liaison Report. Dave, I wasn't sure if you went with Chris Lindberg to the Township meeting on April 9th.
I did not.
Okay, we do have a page on that, and I did want to make a comment. You know, and anybody who can access this information online. I think instituting this practice of sending someone to the township meetings has already brought good results, and I really appreciate Chris's effort in making sure he gets there and providing us with a report. So does anybody have any comments on the report itself? No? Okay. Brian isn't in attendance today.
No, ma'am.
John, do you have any report in place of Brian?
Not in, part of the report was the post office and the maintenance audit and the remodel of the storage facilities. And then I have some topical comments from him on the particulars as we go through the agenda.
I think we lost Pat again.
I'm not hearing that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was mentioning the comments that from Brian was the post office and the maintenance building tasks. I do have some comments from him on agenda items further down in the new business section.
Okay, great. Okay, does Maddie have a report? I don't know if she's still there.
She is. Do you have a report?
Well,
Nope.
Okay, well, I know she's spent a lot of time on the aquatics handbook. So we'll talk about that later. Okay, let's move into committee reports. I realize we're on a Saturday morning meeting. We don't typically have them, but we'll go through them rather quickly. The Finance and Audit Committee, Bob, do you have anything to add on that?
I do not.
Okay, great. We have a page in our packet from the ACC Committee. Any questions on that or comments? Is someone going to give us a verbal report on maintenance? Is that you, Doug?
We had our committee meeting Friday, and I'll talk about the paving later in the meeting here. But basically, we went over the line striping, we went over the capital budget, and also we looked at the progress on Imperial Road, which will be a bid packet for the contract to complete the phase 1 for the drainage effort on Imperial Road.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You know, can I back up just a second to 11.3 on the ACC? Is there any information that we can share similar to what Mr. Duray had brought up at the beginning in members' minutes? And Doug, you're the liaison, I believe, is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. So is there, from a process standpoint, or has anything changed with how they are issuing the reports or the permits or anything like that we might be able to share?
No, the number of permits is obviously down. This last meeting that we had Friday also was 2 permit requests. So there's been very few requests for, obviously, for permits over the last couple of meetings. My concern would be the impact of painting and staining over the year to maintain the PRP program. But so far, nobody has raised that point. So as of right now, we're still on track to maintain the current schedule for the PRP.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
If contractors can't work for an extended period of time, then the discussion would be how long do we let the PRP extend a year or what's gone? So far, that's not come up.
Okay, good.
Okay. I think we need to be reasonable under the circumstances, and I'm sure they'll work it out. Okay, we have information from the Rules and Regs Committee. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review that. I think we should review it and maybe let them know if we have any comments. The Social and Rec Committee has provided their report. I think they have postponed everything on their agenda as they needed to. But we do appreciate their effort. I don't know if Jay or Ron are present with regard to, imagine this to be the mountain metric report.
We can unmute Jay.
And Rick.
Is Jay there?
And Rick's there too.
Okay.
Let's see if we can unmute. There's Jay. We can unmute him. Can you hear us, Jay?
I can. How are you this morning?
Hi, Jay.
Great.
Good morning.
A lot of glare there, Jay.
We are, we're having a meeting on Wednesday of this upcoming week. We've done quite a bit of review with all of the various and sundry local and national vendors that we deal with. And of course, the fate of the event rests upon the preserving the safety of the community, the riders, the volunteers. So we'll be discussing those issues. Each of the members of the committee is going to present their views on the pros and cons of having the event as scheduled, canceling the event, or postponing it to a later date. So there's not much else to report at this time other than we're getting all the information together. We certainly need to comply with the orders from the board, the governor's mandate, data from the CDC, data from the Department of Health, et cetera. I don't know if the other members of the committee have anything to add. Rick, Chris, and Dave are all on the broadcast here.
Okay, Jay. Well, thank you very much, Jay. You'll let the board know what your committee's thoughts are on this, and then get back to us.
Yeah, the proceedings from the next meeting will be written up as a report for your next meeting. So we will certainly keep you informed.
Okay, great. All right. If no one has any questions of Jay with regard to the mountain metric, let's move on to the strategic long-range plan. We did receive information from Jay that is in our report. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And then if we have any questions, let's gather them and we'll get them to the committee. Okay, thanks, Jay. Moving on to the Nominating and Leadership Development Committee. I think Chris Umble is there.
Yep, we'll unmute him, Pat. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for carrying on.
Hi, Linda. Okay, Chris, looks like you guys have been busy.
Yeah, the committee's remained active. We've been meeting every 2 weeks by conference call. And we're hopeful that what you'll look at today is our proposed schedule for execution of the nominating process.
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have any questions? I know this is an item on our agenda later on for action. The calendar, that is.
Well, for the benefit of homeowners who may not have seen the report, and I don't know if it is posted on the website, Chris might want to review what it is that has been done or being recommended.
Sure, John. We are proposing a calendar of events. Number one, to publicize the fact that in November the board elections will be held, and leading up to that, we're looking at having a couple of efforts to make that to generate interest. I'll put it that way. We're reaching out to potential homeowners who would be potential candidates for the board, and one of the things that we've proposed to do is to allow this year nominations at large. Meaning, historically, if somebody wanted to run for the board, you nominate yourself to run for the board. We want to allow a process beginning this year where a homeowner can nominate another homeowner for the position. And then the nominating committee would contact that nominated person to see if they're interested or willing to run. We're simply opening that up to try and generate, number one, interest, and number two, participation in the election process. We also want to have again, depending on the COVID-19 circumstances at the time, we're proposing to have in June 2 open meetings for homeowners who may have interest in running for the board, so they could come and learn about what it would mean to be a board member, what's involved with board leadership, and generally do some fact finding on their own if they have interest.
You know, Chris, obviously we've now all learned about Zoom, and my guess is that your dates of June 13th and 19th for this future board member information session will probably, because of the social distancing requirements, we may not be able to do that in person. If we get a large crowd, if we got a small crowd, we would be able to do it. But I don't think we need to deviate from the schedule, because I think we can still conduct this information session by Zoom conference.
No, and I agree, Pat, and that's what we've talked about, is we'll go down whatever path is open to us at the time.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you to the committee for your work.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions of Chris?
Great work, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, very good. Where are we? So I think we need a motion to accept the committee reports.
I'll make that motion.
A second?
So
I'll second.
Bill, second.
Got three of
I'll
them.
second it.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, moving on to 12. Bob, can you give us a few-minute update on Hidden Valley Utility Services?
I can do that, Pat. So I think at the last meeting in February, we were awaiting a determination on whether or not Hidden Valley Utility Services would receive their permit to implement the filtration type process that they want to put in to help address the brown water issue that continues to haunt us at Hidden Valley. So right after that meeting, the DEP did issue permit to Hidden Valley Utility Services that will allow them to move forward with installation of that filtration plant that Mr. Kettler talked about at the December meeting, public meeting of homeowners. So he has his permit and is now able to move forward. Now, of course, there is a prohibition on construction right now. So I'm not sure exactly what can be done, if anything, down there. But anyway, he does have his permit. So that was the one thing I wanted to communicate. Second thing I wanted to communicate was that there is a hearing scheduled related to Hidden Valley Utility Services in front of the administrative law judge. That is scheduled for Tuesday, May 19th and Wednesday, May 20th. It has been changed from an in-person hearing to a phone hearing, which I guess I'll be on my headphones for 8 hours a day for those 2 days. But and that's going to deal with some procedural issues about Hidden Valley Utility Services' failure to comply with the judge's order that was issued in 2018. Yes, I said that right, in 2018. So there's a lot of back and forth going on right now. There's depositions being filed, testimony. So it seems like every day I'm getting various reports via email, since nothing is now being mailed because no one at the PUC is their resident. So everything is being done by email right now. So I will keep you updated on what happens with that. And I guess the third thing I would like to add is just folks, try to, if you are experiencing brown water, encourage you to please contact the utility first, right? Make sure that they know about it. And then secondly, you can at least leave an informal complaint at the PUC, either by telephone, it's going to go into a voicemail box somewhere, or probably the better way to do it now would be to just file an informal complaint via email. So, but we want to try to make sure we continue to log the fact that we are experiencing water issues. I got a call at home the other day at 8:10 in the morning from a homeowner that was experiencing brown water. So we need to try to keep the pressure on the utility company and the PUC that we continue to experience these issues.
Okay, great, Bob. Good suggestion, and thanks for bringing us up to date. Everybody has the security report in their packet. I think we've already reviewed the Jefferson Township report. John Sabo, have we received anything from Jefferson Township that needs to be
No,
covered?
the open question was the status of Bakerville's quick response squad. We don't have an answer yet, and that was the pending question from the township meeting.
Okay. Okay, thank you. At the beginning of the meeting, we added item 12.4. It's getting to be mid to late April, and I think all eyes are starting to turn toward the summer. And we've already received questions with regard to the opening of the pools. As everyone is aware, we typically open the pools Memorial Weekend, which this year is the weekend of May 23rd, 24th, 25th. We are continuing to move toward opening the pool. That is, we've had conversation. What's the matter, guys?
Oh, it's snowing.
And I'm talking about opening the swimming pool. John Sabo has been working with the maintenance staff to make sure that we're ready to, that we know what we have to do to get it opened. They've indicated they need 3 to 4 weeks to make that happen. But COVID-19 is impacting our ability to handle this as we would in any other routine year. We have lifeguards that are coming back. However, the American Red Cross has suspended all certification testing, and therefore, until those lifeguards are tested, we may not be able to open the pools. Anything can happen here in the next month, and fingers crossed, we may be able to move forward with it. We are also waiting to review guidelines from the health department with regard to the operation of pools in this era of
Uh-oh.
Lost Pat.
Pat just dropped. Shoot. We just lost Pat.
Well, good thing you emailed her that link.
Yeah.
Right.
She'll get back in.
There we go.
There you are, Pat. Look, do you want to unmute her?
Yeah. You may have to go into the gallery.
Oh.
Oh, there she is. Yeah, John McGraw. All right, we're getting you back, Pat.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
So to make my long story short, we're going to keep all the homeowners continually updated with regard to plans to open the pool. But it is not business as usual with regard to the pools. And so we're going to have to be a little creative this year in order to have any semblance of what we experience over the summer in Hidden Valley. So stay tuned. More news on that tomorrow and in days to come. So let's move on. If everybody can hear me, to new business.
Pat.
What?
So there are basically 4 things that could happen. One, we may not be able to open the pools. 2, we may be able to open only 1 pool. 3, the opening of all or 1 could be delayed significantly. What would be the 4th?
Combination of 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Right.
What was that?
A combination of all.
Just a combination of 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that was it.
And you know what, John, I certainly appreciate that. I just want to make it clear that we aren't able to make a decision right now.
Correct.
And so as soon as we're in a position to have all of the information and the appropriate guidance, we'll let everyone know. Okay. Moving on to new business. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Donna Corson from the Maintenance Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Bill, second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I do want to thank Donna for her contributions to that committee. As you can see from her letter, she's a pretty busy lady. Let's move on. I think John Sabo, do you want to talk about these, the bids for line striping?
Yeah, I would love to. Let's see here. Pat, they're picking on me again. All right.
You'd never dream of doing that.
Just for the sake of everyone, we received bids from Krylon Corporation, Comstack Line Painting, A1 Asphalt Services. Beeler Brothers did not bid. Krylon was the lowest bid and also a qualified bidder. They submitted a bid in the amount of $7,694.89. The Maintenance Committee did discuss the bids at their meeting yesterday. And just to refresh the board, Krylon provided line striping from 2012 through 2017 and also last year. So the Maintenance Committee and management recommend without reservation the award of the bid to Krylon Corporation in the amount of $7,694.89.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion to award the 2020 line striping bid to Krylon Corp for $7,694.89?
So moved.
Don Eddie? Second?
I'll
Dave
second.
Fiola.
Okay.
Doug beat you.
Okay, any questions on the motion?
Not fair.
When will they start?
If not, all those in favor say aye.
Hold on. John had a good, John Newport had a question.
When might they start?
As soon as PennDOT releases road work.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
Go ahead.
Okay, the new aerator. John, do you have information that you'd like to share on that?
Yep, basically, let me get to that page, sorry. This is a pond aerator. It would be in the board pack. Come on. Shoot. All right, we received from Griffith Incorporated a price to replace an Audubon, sorry, I can't talk today, Otterbein half horsepower pond pump aerator in the amount of $2695.98.
Is that the only bid we got?
Let's see here. Because it's over $1,000. Yes, Pat, that is the only pricing we do have, and this is the incumbent where we have typically ordered these products from.
Griffith is well known for landscaping products, pond products, et cetera. They're kind of the market leader in this area. Yeah, they're the go-to folks. So, hey, John, which pond is this for? That was the only thing I didn't see on here. Not that it matters a whole lot, but I was just curious.
I don't know, honestly. I didn't write that down. Doug, do you by chance? I'll report back to the board. I apologize for not knowing.
No.
Well, and to follow up on that, Bob, is this a replacement for one that has gone down? And
Yes.
part of that would be, do you have an expectation that maybe you would order two just to have one in reserve?
Yeah, I think
So
that
sorry.
Go ahead, John Sabo.
I'm glad you brought that up, John, because that's the question I asked Brian. I would like the board to consider authorizing us to purchase 2 for exactly that. When we did our audit of the material, unfortunately, the backup we had in stock, mice got to it and chewed up the windings on the motor, so we do not have a spare.
So the question then is, do we have a safe place to store a spare this time? And then would the 2-year, they each come with a 2-year warranty. Would that 2-year warranty then start when we use the spare one, or does that start ticking when we purchase it?
Typically, it is by purchase. We do have a request into Griffith that if they would allow us to have that clock start on installation, but to be honest with you, Dave, it's not likely because that would be very difficult for them to manage that time threshold.
Yeah, then I'd be hesitant on the backup idea.
The
And
lead time is short.
that's what I was going to ask.
Having it on the shelf is not.
Yeah, it's not mission critical. And we do have a safe plot. Basically, it would be stored in a paint storage locker, which is mouse proof.
Is it also known as your trunk, John Shabo?
Oh, I don't have a trunk. I have a station wagon.
So it sounds like we're just going to go with 1 because of the warranty. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of the new aerator for $2,695.98?
Dave Fiola will make the motion.
Okay.
Bob will second.
Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, very good. Could we have a few minute report on the status of the Southridge Center building project?
I will handle that, Pat. Since our last meeting 2 months ago, right now Morton builders are locked down. They can't do any building. We did get contracts back from Morton, which we have to review. Since 2 months ago, I believe we all decided to do a lot of in-house work ourselves on this building. We have the site plans already done. We're in the process of getting prices on the plumbing, the electric. I'm trying to use local people on top of the mountain who have done work on the mountain for certain homeowners. The build out on the bathrooms, concession stands, that's all coming in the line right now. All my prices are coming in the line. The cement contractor, he's ready to go. Morton's ready to go. We talked to Peter, the architect, and the engineer. We're meeting with him on Tuesday.
Tuesday, correct. Yep.
To tie loose ends together. I'm getting prices on all the doors, the garage doors, lighting fixtures. So it's all coming together as one. So we just have to wait a little bit longer to start construction.
Okay. John Sabo, anything to add to that?
Yes, Bill and I will plan to have number refinement to the board at your executive session on Tuesday. The COVID situation is making that a little slower than we would like, but we'll do the best we can. Yes.
Okay, great.
Did we want? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, if I can.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, we received from Rick Williams, 2414 Southridge Place. He had emailed, he had connection issues, but he had asked, and it's pertinent to this line item, he had noticed the orange marks around some of the trees at the Southridge Center.
Mhm.
And if I can, I emailed them back, but for the sake of the audience, I wanted to let people know, some of the trees marked are relational to the proposed footprint of the building. Some of the trees marked are diseased. Some are marked because they are beginning to impact the side wall of the pool, and some are also impacting the plumbing. So approximately 26 trees are marked. They are tentatively marked for removal, but that is yet to be finalized based upon the board approving the footprint and the engineering. So I didn't want this to get out of control on the street, but wanted to clarify Rick Williams' question. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
I think, Bill, you had mentioned that we were going to handle some of this stuff in-house, and I thought maybe we should clarify to what extent, again, to try to make sure there's no misunderstandings.
The extent is the plumbing, the electrical.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I think
We're talking about managing the project.
yeah, I think that's what we're going to handle. The subcontractors will handle that kind of work. And that's what I was hoping for, was just to make sure we are clear about.
The
So-
foundation will be the general contractor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
we're-
that's the wording we were looking for, Bill, is that the foundation would act as the general contractor, drawing upon your experience and John Sabo's experience.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
Right.
But more details on all of that the next time we meet.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I copy the contract?
No, that's Tuesday. I'm going to send that out on Monday.
I'll have all that.
Yep.
Okay, the next item is we have a couple of committee applications, one from Dave Oster and one from Dan Martin whom we heard from earlier for appointment to the maintenance committee. Do I have a motion to approve those appointments?
I'll move.
John Eddie?
John Eddy, and second by John Newport.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
You're always first, John, because you're older than me.
Ooh.
Uh,
No, this is payback. When I was down in North Carolina, I had a 7-second delay.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
I have a quick question on those applications. I'm just curious, do those applications come in as a result of the work that our leadership and volunteer committee have been doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Chris Umble's fault.
Well, let's go with, because of Chris Humble, we have some great new members of the committee.
That's right.
Well, I just wanted to point that out. Thank you very much, because we're going to need all the help we can get going forward, as always, actually. But It's nice to see some of that come to fruition already. So thanks to the committee, thanks to Chris and those guys.
Thank you, Dave, for bringing it up.
Absolutely, Dave. Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to review the aquatic staff handbook that Maddie has painstakingly put together. And I guess if I were optimistic, I'd say we would need it in May. So is this something we're prepared to act on right now? I've reviewed it, and I think it, obviously I'm not an aquatics expert, but it seems to cover a lot of ground, or water, as the case may be. So,
Don't give up your day job, Pat.
oh, darn. So what's the board's wish on this?
Well, Pat, let me say something. As a former lifeguard, former water safety instructor, former pool manager, this is pretty good.
Good.
Maddie did a great job.
This is absolutely pretty good.
Yep. So I'm hoping the board would entertain approving in the event that we can open the pools this year.
I have I have one recommendation for the manual. It doesn't address our pool rules. I think we ought to have an addendum to it that would be our pool policy.
Exactly.
On there. That way, there's a single document
Yep.
where the pool information is located as opposed to two documents. Because if I'm a hire, I'm a hire now for a lifeguard, I don't know, other than there's a sign posted out there, we might as well go ahead and put everything that's in writing together in the same document.
And Doug brings up a great point that we would prefer to do the rules as an addendum, which then allows the board to change those without having to revise the aquatics manual.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
It's just one-stop shopping.
Yeah.
There's no sense having two
Yep.
separate.
Yep, agreed.
Then why don't we modify that motion to be a motion to approve the aquatics manual with the, with addendum, which reflects
Perfect.
current pool
It just,
policy.
Full rules.
to me, that was kind of an obvious oversight.
Yep, it was
Well, it would, I don't know if it's an oversight.
it was an intent. The intent was to have this discussion to see where y'all were feeling.
Okay,
Because we have policies within the foundation that aren't necessarily have to do with what's required of the lifeguards.
That's correct.
So, I'm agreeing,
Yep.
but this little thing right here,
Mm-hmm.
is pretty good.
Yeah, I like
okay,
it.
great, John. Thank you.
Well, and it seems those pool rules should be required reading for the lifeguards, right?
That's
Since
right.
they're going to be enforcing them, right? So, and then having it as an addendum, as they change, we can update it, so.
Right, and then they will
Okay,
sign
very
off on
good.
it.
Do I have a
They're
motion?
confident.
Go ahead, Patty.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
John Eddie,
I'll second.
Motion by John Eddie, second by John Newport. Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So ordered. Okay. The next item is to approve the firearms, weapons, and fireworks policy. This is a policy that the Rules and Regs Committee has worked hard on, and obviously it's a brief policy with a limited purpose, because everybody, we can't interfere with state and federal law with regard to firearms. So any comments before we move forward?
My one concern is what you just said, Pat, in regards to the state and fed, but I'm interested in why D has been added to this. Only because this is private property. We're all already dealing with this from a foundation standpoint. Why then go to the next step of including Pennsylvania State Police or Game Commission?
Well, you know what, I can't get into the heads of the committee. I did not participate in that discussion, but I think, as we all know, now we've received a legal opinion about what our ability is to police and enforce our own community. And we do have the authority to do that, but I would think this policy, like some others, but not every other policy, may require the foundation to bring in an outside law enforcement agency. Actually, with or without this provision, we have the ability to do that.
I know that.
Right.
I know that.
Pat, I did participate in the committee's debate about this, and not speaking for them, I can give you what I recall. Several of us were concerned that the actual authority may be the state police or the conservation department. So the committee, at the end of that debate, felt it was appropriate to bring to people's attention that the board may not be the final arbiter of this. Let's say if you're doing something that's in direct violation of the law, we would want people to know that you have to also deal with law enforcement.
But that's true, though, of any action.
It goes without saying, correct.
That's, to to me, that's not a really good argument.
I'm just conveying,
I
No,
understand.
I just,
yeah.
I will say that from personal knowledge, like when you look at this policy and we have anything in red was either added or changed. So when you refer to item D, only the 2 red items listed there were added. So
I know.
what was, I'm just saying, I know that you know, John, because we talked about it. I just want to make sure people understand that anything that isn't in red was just carried over from something that has existed for a while, right? If I'm not mistaken, 1995 or something like that.
Yes.
And how would this piggyback on our no hunting policy that we currently have?
It's intended to marry.
Well, I'd like to see him marry.
So it doesn't conflict.
Correct.
Yeah, we do. Do we not?
No. We do not have a hunting policy.
There was a board resolution, I guess a few years ago, there was some folks, but there's nothing concrete about no hunting.
There is,
That could be a good recommendation back to the committee.
Oh, yeah. See, there's a problem there, because I can tell you, going back 40-some years, there was a no hunting policy of this foundation. So the question is, was it a discussion of the board at that time because of the resort owning this? Or was there an exact policy? And I can't tell you. All I know is when I moved up here, it was common knowledge, no hunting on this property. So what happened, where to go, and do we have to come back to it again?
I would recommend us coming back, because when Michelle and I looked back to 95, we couldn't, that doesn't mean it's not there, but we couldn't locate the records.
So we gotta look at that.
Right.
Wait, and you know what John said, but will you take that back to the committee?
Yes, ma'am. I'll take that back.
Okay.
Didn't the resort have the policy?
The resort did have the policy.
So did that automatically, well, but that raises the question. Was it because they had the controlling interest on the foundation board that automatically rolled over up here? That's probably right, Bill.
Yes.
That's probably correct. So now that we've now separated, we've got to come back to this. So.
Yep, I'll take it back to the committee.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Can I have a motion to approve the firearms, weapons, and fireworks policy?
Don't we want to table it for now?
Yeah, we're going to table it. We want to table it.
Are we going to table it pending what, seeing if there is a hunting policy?
Well, even if we don't have it as part of the foundation, Pat, I think that should be part of this.
Would the board consider approving it subject to the addition of a clause prohibiting all hunting activities?
I'd be open to that.
That way we can cut off a 2-month chase on it.
I think we, number one, we would still have to see the language.
Gotcha.
I'm just wondering, and just think about this for 60 seconds. Is this the only place where we would deal, like if you had a question about, and this is a committee issue all the time. I'm a new resident, I want to know what the hunting rules are. Am I going to look under firearms, weapons, and fireworks, or am I going to want to see a hunting policy?
You'll want to look under hunting, and Pat, while we're chatting, thank you, Michael DeRay. He chimed in that Pennsylvania hunting law prohibits hunting within 500 feet of any building.
yes, that's standard, but that doesn't address our
So
concern
so
here.
does that mean from my deck,
Yes,
25 feet from
500,
state game lands,
yeah,
with one house being 400 feet or yards?
it's line of sight, 500 feet line of sight.
Well, okay.
So we should address it
But
specifically.
does this also address my safety and my right to protect myself on this mountain for whatever reason? That is why I had concerns with this from the beginning. I think I know the intent of where they were coming from, but
Right.
I would,
discharge of any firearms is not permitted. Well, I have a problem with that.
Your Second Amendment right supersedes this.
Well, does it? And if it doesn't, or if it does, I sure as hell would like to see some legal opinion that's on this. That's my only concern. I understand,
Right.
but are you limiting me if I have to defend myself, or what does this mean? Am I gonna fine me, you're gonna throw me out of the foundation, or we ignore it?
There were 3 distinct opinions in the committee. There were some that wanted, at least my sense of the discussion was, they wanted to primarily restrain the recreational or like somebody setting up cans in their backyard, shooting, hunting activities, and I'm trying to,
Okay, now you just answered.
Yes, but
I want better clarification, John, I do.
I know, and I'm biting my tongue because I can't say what I want to say without making a personal opinion, so.
My other
You know what,
concern on
and to John Eddie, to John Eddie's point, self-defense is a whole nother, that's a whole nother chapter.
Right.
And so I think the purpose of this policy as a homeowner is to avoid someone shooting at cans, to avoid someone from firing off whatever my 3 sons like to fire off on the 4th of July that I hate. So isn't that the purpose of this at Hidden Valley?
Yes, that's the intent.
Okay, that might be the intent, and my concern is, as I have said, so how do we marry both of these?
You mean the hunting component?
Yes.
I would like to take it back to the committee for a revision and bring it back to the board for consideration.
So would it be fair to say this in no way has any impact on a person's right to Second Amendment rights? Is that fair to put in there?
Yes.
Okay, then I don't have a problem with that.
Yep.
Because the intent is, we don't want people shooting cans or shooting off fireworks or shooting their kids with paintball guns because they've been bad or whatever.
Well, it doesn't say I can't shoot my kid.
Oh, shoot, okay. So I understand, look, I already had a discussion with Michelle.
Right.
You did? Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay.
I know what their intent is. It's just, on my Second Amendment rights, I would just like to have,
Gotcha.
This has nothing to do with that, but within the confines of Hidden Valley Foundation property, no discharge.
Okay.
No hunting, da-da-da-da.
So
Is
then-
that fair? Is
yeah.
that realistic?
I don't know, but I can make the case that in the purpose, it certainly would behoove the committee to consider adding a clarity.
That's all I'm asking
Yeah.
for.
My argument then would be delete paragraph B and put in the points that you are attempting to make. The problem with the word utilization is it's defined as to use.
I know.
And that, you're not talking about the use, you're talking about me physically pulling the trigger on a bullet that's coming out the end of a firearm.
Or any device that,
Using could be carrying. Using is a very broad term. That's my point.
there was a lot of heavy debate on B. So I don't have a good answer as to how the committee would consider.
I do not like the word utilization because to me, it's too broad. It's to use. That's the definition. There's a Merriam-Webster for it. It basically covers any handling, anything to do with a weapon.
Okay.
That's my problem with it, and that's the Second Amendment piece that I really strongly disagree with.
I'm like Chuck Heston. Take it out of my dead hand.
Okay,
So
I don't think we need to be that heavy-handed.
No, I understand.
I just want something in here that says, to clarify, one that says no effect on my Second Amendment rights to, period. This has to do with hunting as well as discharge of any weapons for whatever reason we decide.
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
So you're thinking more of the recreational.
Right, but
Yes.
my point is, A already says that. It says
It's correct.
discharge. That's my point.
Right.
I'm okay with discharge. I am not okay with utilization.
All right, well then I'll take this back. If it's okay with the board, I'll take this back to the committee reopen that discussion and bring it back to the board for decision?
Yeah. How
Would
about,
you be okay if we got rid of the utilization of weapons, but add to A what they're
Right,
talking
that's
about?
what I'm saying.
Okay.
You know, 1, 2, 3.
Well, can I work with the two of you,
Sure you
come
can.
up with what you're comfortable, and then I'll report that to the committee?
That's fine.
okay,
That's
hey,
what we'd like
John Sabo, let's do this. You know, this committee, frankly, works very hard
Yes.
on this language. And my concern is they've worked very hard, we get it, and then once we get one of these policies, we continually table it. So if we can make an effort on this, and maybe we need to do this with all of these policies, we'll take these comments and any additional comments, they can be given to John Sabo, who will give them to Michelle. Michelle can run the changes through the committee, perhaps in between meetings, so that when we meet again in May, we're ready to go on this, and we don't have all of these comments, all of which are great. I don't disagree with them, but I think that we need to sort of vet these policies before they come to the meeting, so that committee can move forward.
Pat, I understand, in my discussions with Michelle, I clearly understand where the committee's coming from on this.
Okay.
This just doesn't answer the questions. That's all. I think what we're talking about is very, very, very minor compared to what, yes.
So
we're not talking major changes here.
And I agree with you, John. So what I want to do is make sure that the next month, when it comes back on the agenda, we're ready to go. Okay?
I agree.
And I would say we should keep hunting as a separate from this. I'm worried about muddying the water further.
I agree with Dave on that. They seem to me to be separate.
Okay, do I have a motion to table?
Yes.
Moved. So moved, John.
Who's our second?
Bill seconds.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
That bill.
I don't think I need to say all those in favor on the tape. Okay. Okay, moving on to 13.8. Chris Humble's committee had proposed a board nomination calendar. I think since we're being asked to act on it, I want to make sure everyone out there who's in attendance at the meeting knows what it is. I'll run through it very quickly. May 1st, announce the board nominating calendar. June 13, 19, future board member information session that we talked about earlier. August 14th, call for nominations and self-nominations. September 12th, deadline for receipt of nominations. September 12th through the 19th, the committee will vet the nominated candidates for willingness to run. September 22nd is the deadline for receipt of the candidate statements. September 22nd to the 26th is a review of all the candidates and written statements. October 1st, we'll print ballot packages. October 3rd, we'll video candidate statements. October 6th, ballots and packages will be mailed to foundation members. October 9th, we will post candidate videos to the website so that all members can view them. And possibly on October 10th, we'll have a Meet the Candidates event, but that may also be virtual. Okay, so November 9th would be the final day for ballots to be received, and the election results will be announced at our November 21st meeting. So how does that sound?
I like it.
Good.
Very nice.
Very
I think
nice.
it is good. Okay. So can I have a motion to accept the calendar?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
John Eddie.
Johnny?
John Eddie.
Okay. Thanks, John. Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Okay,
Hey, Pat,
yes.
before you go on to the next one, John Sabo, I'm kind of looking at my screen here, and it looks like maybe there were a couple resident comments that came in. I don't know if we want to maybe quickly look at them, but.
Oh, great catch, Bob. Oh, yeah, that was Michael DeRay clarifying it was 450 feet for a discharge or hunting from a building. Self-defense is a separate issue.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the Imperial Road project. We're in phase one, and John Sabo, do you want to provide a summary of the bids received?
I would. Let's see here. Okay. We received. Okay, Pat. This would be for New Enterprise, Expert Paving, Krylon Corporation, and Laurel.
This is Imperial Road phase
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. That's,
You're online.
yeah.
You're online.
You're online painting, John Sabo.
Imperial Road phase one bid summary. I've got,
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the paving bid.
Yeah, we want Imperial Road, Leasock Excavating, and Moust Excavating.
Yeah,
Beg your pardon. Okay. Leasock Excavating and Moust Excavating, Berkeley. And then we had, let's see here.
Paul Bunyan, Stoy Excavating, and White House Excavating.
Correct. Let's see here.
but we have no bid from the last four.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
So then the, oh man.
Hey, you know what, John? I would help you out. If I can, I don't know if I see the total bids. Leasock's total bid is $50,279.05. And however, the note indicates that there is a fully executed proposal that was provided. Mouse bid obviously higher at $65,051, and all items were complete.
Right, I'm sorry, I moved the committee package. So Leasock is the lowest bidder at $50,279.85, and Moust, as you mentioned. The maintenance committee did discuss this yesterday. The errors, as noted within the compliance review on the bid section, were solved. The committee did unanimously recommend awarding the project to Leasock, with the proviso that the addendum 1, and just so the board understands, addendum 1 was to clarify an error made by CME Engineering in the linear footage of the project. The committee yesterday with Brian and I verified that the bid submitted by Leasock was the correct linear feet, and that Leasock did confirm that they have no problem signing that addendum to obviously protect us and CME. So with that being said, the committee and management unanimously recommend the board approve awarding project phase 1 to Leasock in an amount not to exceed $50,279.85.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hey, John Sabo, you said there was an issue about the linear feet. So in the bid schedule that I'm looking at for both, is the estimated quantity correct? They both bid the same linear feet?
Yes, and we verified it by the actual bid package as well.
So when we look at that bid schedule, item 4, for instance, is $11,000 different between the two. Now, how is that, if that's just a channel installation and replacement with the exact same linear feet, does one is at $928 for a unit price and the other one's at $22? which leads to that, you know, that huge difference in price. What are we missing? It just jumped out to me like we're missing something.
Yeah, and in fact, offline, Bob, Brian, and I had the conversation. I'm hesitant. Well, we believe Moust is not going to self-perform, and that they are going to subcontract, and we believe that is one section where Moust is going to farm that out to a sub, and mainly for almost more than a double in unit pricing. And the same also is the culvert. You know, if you look at number 5, the delta on the two prices, again, reaffirms our belief that Moust is not going to self-perform those two segments.
Okay. That pretty much answers that question. And
Thank
that's
you.
the bulk of the difference in pricing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're going to replace culverts?
I
Lighten
think
them.
reline is the better word, John. Reline.
Okay.
So are we,
Problem,
go ahead, Doug.
the problem with the flooding is the culverts aren't wide enough and deep enough.
There you go.
That I believe, yeah, having looked them over several times.
Right, they were underbuilt as originally installed, and now they'll be fixed.
Correct.
Okay, so are we ready to move forward with this, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question, Pat? So,
Bob.
John Szabo, did we check any references on Leasock Excavating? Do we know anything
Yes.
about them?
Both CME and Bob provided professional recommendation, and so the committee felt that was a very appropriate threshold.
Okay, thank you.
Bob who?
Bob Meidel, I assume, John Szabo?
Yes, I beg your pardon. Yes.
Okay.
Our-
just
our-
confirm.
Lots of few more times.
Yeah, who tells?
Excuse me, could I ask a question? How many bids did you get? I'm sorry, I missed that, I think.
Two.
We received two valid bids out of
Okay.
a pool of 6.
Okay, but on the other 6, the unit prices, is it closer to the $22 or the $9?
They
There were-
are, yeah, they tend to be in the lower range, Dan.
So the person you're going to award the contract to, is his unit price the 20-some dollars?
No.
No, it's $9.28.
I lost track of that. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, if there are no further questions, do I have a motion to approve awarding the Imperial Road Phase 1 work to Leasock?
I'm sorry, I have one more question. I know. Sorry
Don't
about that.
go right ahead.
So with the COVID issue and not knowing the details of when things will be released, is there a specific time that these approvals will be good for? Like if they delay releasing that stuff, are we in jeopardy of losing the pricing?
Oh, it's a great question, Dave.
It's 60 days.
It is 60 days, but when Brian and I reached out to Leasock and Moust, unless there's a force majeure situation, they're willing to hold pricing for the foreseeable future, was the term that they used.
Well, you know what, John, let's hope they didn't use force majeure, because the legal arguments right now are that COVID-19 falls under it. So I guess it's safe to say, Dave, that we would be approving Leasock's bid at this price. If,
I see.
Correct.
Okay.
if that price would change, then we would have the ability to walk away.
And John, you said it's not to exceed that number. Is that the kind of bid that we're requesting or approving?
Yes, because
Okay.
they also had to post a bid bond and a performance bond, so we want to make sure the board approval follows form to an amount not to exceed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Why don't you amend their contract, asking them to hold a date firm or price firm for 180 days?
That's a reasonable ask if the board wishes.
I think maybe have a conversation with them to see if they're willing to accommodate that.
We already did, Pat. off the record, they're willing to hold this price until September,
Okay, well,
which
why,
is about 6 months.
Right. So it's basically a handshake, and if we can't rely on a handshake today, it's kind of sad.
well,
Go, Jack.
guys, let's tailor our motion so that we we move to accept the bid of Leasock Excavating for the Imperial Road Phase 1 project at a price of $50,279.85. At a price not to exceed $50,279.85, period. Because if we don't know today whether or not they will agree to an extension, number one. Number two, I don't know who just said it, John Newport, handshakes in this business aren't going to work. So we want, I don't mean to be unkind, but if we say not to exceed $50,279, then we're not moving forward. And we can let them know that that is what we intend.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They would need to come back to us then
Right.
if time elapses and they say, hey, now it needs to be 55,000. They would need to come back to us for approval.
And we would have to take separate action to approve it.
Correct.
That's correct. And then
Okay.
we do have the fail-safe of the bid bond, which, Pat, I'd rather have you comment on how we extract their performance out of a bid bond. But we got the sense from them that they're very interested in being flexible.
Okay, and I think all contractors right now are being flexible.
Yeah.
Because no one knows who's going to be able to afford to contract for new work in the next year.
Right.
So I'm anticipating this bid is going to be good for a while. Okay, but I think that motion will cover it. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, do I have, will someone make that motion?
Dave Fiola will make it.
I'll second it.
Okay, Dave Fiola and Bob. Okay, any further questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we had added a review and approval of the fiscal year 2021 road paving bid. Are we acting on that today?
No.
No.
Oh, we are not. Okay. So forget I said. What?
No,
Yeah.
Pat, I'm going to discuss it because we're going to put it up for an electronic vote prior to the next meeting.
Oh,
The
okay.
information is not in the board packets. We went out to 8 firms, were contacted for interest in this. 6 basically responded for RFPs. We have 4 bids. The bids range from $112,559.70 up to $163,000. The proposed budget, obviously, which is not approved yet, is $120,000. The location and description, there are 7 activities that this contract would include. Taylorway overlay, Taylorway expansion, which would be the expansion of the parking, the Pine Court overlay and the Pine Court expansion, again, the same thing. And then 2706 Powder Ridge parking space expansion and 2709. If you're not familiar with Powder Ridge, please go look at those parking areas. They're basically the size of postage stamps. And this is to put them up to what I would consider to be modern standards.
Right.
As a polite way. And finally, the 7th project is the Lake Road overlay, which is needed. Anyway, so those are the 7 projects. And we do have the details. Unfortunately, they did not get put in the board packet. We do have a recommendation from the maintenance committee. I'm the board liaison for the maintenance committee. I will put this out for an electronic vote early next week.
Thanks, Doug.
Hey, Doug, and you'll make sure that the packet also comes out to us? So,
Yes, it'll have all this information that didn't
Okay.
get put in the board packet. I mean, we've got the summary, the observations, we've got the details on the bidders, the
Yep.
names of all the companies, et cetera. So you can see what they're offering.
Okay. I'm listening intently, but I'm sure that I'm not going to retain all that. Okay, very good. Then we won't be taking action on that today, but thank you for the information.
Okay.
Well, we're getting to the end of our agenda. We've planned for our next meeting to be Friday, May 15th at 7 p.m. If I were a betting woman, I believe it will be another Zoom meeting.
Yep.
Unfortunately. So does anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Okay. I just want to thank all of the board members personally for continuing to work on all of our special projects. This is a very difficult time, and we're probably driving John Sabo and the rest of the staff a little crazy with constant emails and phone calls. But obviously we don't want to slow down. We have a busy agenda for 2020, and I think we're going to be able to meet our goals. So I really do appreciate your hard work. Chris Umble and Dan Martin, thank you today for participating in the meeting. We appreciate the input. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. So if no one has any other comments.
I have a.
Okay, please do, John.
A few moments ago, I got a text from Maudeline, who indicated that she's online only, and I see that she is online by telephone. But she questioned, going back to one of our earlier discussion points, why doesn't the board consider the increasing the recycling pickup to once every week as opposed to once every other week? I commented back to her that additional cost is an issue, but it is being discussed. So.
Okay, very good. And that's a good comment for everyone. Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, to that point, John Sabo, if you could keep the board posted on what happens with the recycling following this meeting.
Yes.
See if, our plea for help here is answered. And then if we have to make a decision down the road, we'll have all of that information.
Yes, and just so the board knows, the firm did agree to extend additional pickups without obliging that frequency for the life of the contract. But we would have to do it through the fiscal year, and it would be $322 each additional pickup.
$322.
Correct.
So we're looking at about a $3,000 hit, so which we're not budgeted
For fiscal year.
for
Yeah.
the fiscal year ended 6/30/20. So yeah.
Correct.
Maybe just one other comment related to that, and John Sabo, this would probably be directed at you. If perhaps our maintenance guys could maybe periodically do a little bit of a check of the recycling bin. I mean, I saw that photo of the construction material left outside of it. I mean, I wonder if every other day, if our guys are checking it a little bit, breaking down some cardboard, maybe that would help reduce some of the overflow.
Right. They normally do, Bob, but we had slowed that activity down for more of a personal protection situation for them. We do now have the equipment that I feel more comfortable allowing them to resume that activity.
Okay. I don't want them dumpster diving, but obviously if there's some significant items that could be easily maybe perhaps dealt with, I think that might be worthwhile.
Yep. Yeah, we got them Sharps gloves so they can safely pick that material up.
Okay, good. And thanks to Maudeline for that question. And let's try to. I want to continue to recycle at Hidden Valley, so let's see if we can.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
John Eddie.
Okay, I'll second it then, John.
There we go.
Thank you, John.
All right. Time of adjournment is 10:49.
Great. And Pat, just so I'm clear, the executive items will be carried to Tuesday, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, unless anybody
Excellent.
else has a need for an exec session.
No.
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 Okay, then we will have that next session Tuesday at 7.
Right.
Okay, guys, thank you again.
Linda brought Chris, but I didn't get any.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And for all. Kick